Well, Myelodoma, this is a update for you specifically. Probably going to be the only person that I send it out to. And it's been a while. It's been quite a while since I've seen you. June of 17. Seems like such a short amount of time, and yet so much has happened. All unbelievable. It's probably why I stopped sending my videos. It was just all really a lot. It's still a lot, but I feel compelled to check in with you at least. I know I vanished for the most part. And yet I didn't vanish at all. I don't even know where to begin. Where to begin? I don't know where to begin. There is no beginning. I guess why I've tried to do this several times and it's been a struggle. How to even. I do it all the time in the car with people, which is why I'm getting on right now, because it doesn't matter what I do, it's what I do. So this young girl, I'm Ubering, and this young girl gets in the car and says very little, which is common. It's one of two ways. I get a lot of comments, or they say very little, and then what they do say is very impactful. And what she said really impacted me, because we had a very quiet ride with my peaceful music that I play, because if you're going to be in the car for 12 hours with every opportunity for a mystery to happen, and every opportunity is a mystery on the way there and otherwise. But when we stopped, she said, "Your energy is very purifying." And it was such a blessing to be in your energy. And words are probably the most powerful thing there is, I've discovered. And her words were very deeply felt. Purifying energy. So that's, I guess, in a nutshell, what my life has amounted to. There are so many opportunities to speak to people in the way that I was speaking to you in our last session. And that's all I live for now, is to have an opportunity for what I am to be brought forth, to enliven people. Last week I picked up a lady at the Billy Graham Training Center, which was interesting because I'd never been up there. And she was going a long way. Those calls tend to turn into good calls, because I have a long time to talk to somebody versus a mile and 2/10. My life is in miles, increments of miles and minutes, questing for souls. But anyway, I picked this lady up from the training center, And she was in the car about 30 minutes to the airport. And she was very intrigued by my energy, which I'll give you a little glimpse of just best I can here. So I have my teddy bears on the dash, which one of these belongs to somebody that I have a story that I could tell you about that happened. The other one is mine, and the man that owned this one was a homeless Marine veteran that I was trying to help. But anyway, I ended up with his teddy bear, my attitude adjuster paddle that I found that was a funny thing I bought for myself and stuck hope for the future up there with this fake $100 gold bill. And you know, it is the way I live my life. My little yogi tees here. Somebody left that in my car. Your shoes are great. I do have a great pair of shoes that I think they were talking about. These are potato chip bags that my brother made when he was in jail. My wind chime earring that saved my life, which is a whole nother story. Since I've talked to you last, I died and lived through it. A pair of hard earrings that I'm hanging there, and I'm not wearing them. My rainbow that occasionally comes to visit. You know, this is where I live 12 hours a day, pretty much, doing Lyft and Uber in my new life. The hat gets a lot of comments. They love the hat. If I was to say I get the most comments on, the hat would probably be the most, then the wind chime and the paddle. Lots of opportunities for discussion in my car. It's like a rolling therapy session in a lot of ways, because it elicits a variety of emotions and curiosity. But this is where I've ended up. Right now I do have a motorhome I purchased that I briefly got to stay in after the homeless man situation. That's a long story. I wish I could tell you all the stories, and that's really, you know, my effort in doing this is because it's so all very unbelievable. The epiphany with the apocalyptic underpinning, all of these things that I have now worked through, lived through since our last divination session are so unbelievable. But I know that you would believe them. If anybody would believe them, you would believe them. And I really don't even know where to begin. My family situation, I haven't really seen Paul. I briefly saw him with a very, bad environment where we couldn't have any kind of engagement beyond tears and hugging for a few minutes in June. But that was the first I'd seen him in 2 years. My brother is back in Indiana doing what he's been doing. And I talked to him, and I don't have any of the alcoholics in my life anymore for the most part, other than communicating via electronics. Only to say the same things I have said. There's a few that I'm not seeing or talking to. Of course, Paul's dad. And Chuck. So that's interesting. I think I'm on the other side of the grief of everything. But all of those things are only relevant in and through the epiphany, which has its apocalyptic underpinning. And the space that I bombed myself into that purifies is purifying. Funny is not, the road that I ended up on when the girl got out of the car was called Majestic. I was going to take a picture of it, but I've ceased to record a lot of things in my life because it's just the way it is, and it's overwhelming most of the time to live the way that I do. How do I live? Well, I took everything in my life and have come to realize that the direction and trajectory which I was pursuing was the ultimate path, because there's so many paths to the path, and death is that doorway. So I did end up starving to death, walking around in the spirit. I had quite the initiation of walking in the spirit, and the material things of this world just have no meaning beyond that spirit realm, which was the big shift in November of 17, and then the grief process through loss and, realization, waking up to reality. The great mystery. What can I say? Let's see. Through that death valley of the shadow of death and walking in the spirit that I went through, I found a child that I had miscarried very young in life, which was that whole story is, yeah, I was recording feverishly back then. That's a really powerful experience that I had. Learning so many things about what reality really is. And some beings are just have such a strong purpose that they enter into another way, wind up with the name, the birth date, look like the person that I was pregnant by. It was all very powerful. So that was one experience that I had. Very unbelievable. And I just keep having them as the spirits flow in and out of my vehicle in their day-to-day, living in this world and these material things that ultimately in the end we have to just die to. Well, I guess I'll watch this and decide whether I'm going to send it out or not, whether I even said anything. There really is no way to explain beyond the personal experiences I have where it comes out very spontaneously. I tell people this one time saved my life. My spirit was leaving my body and I was under 70 pounds walking around praying myself in and out of the flesh. That thing, my spirit sucked back in my flesh and I wore it around, tore up my ears for a year or more. Probably all the way through. Christmas of last year, so that would have been 2 years because I got it in November of 17. Now mostly I just hang it in the car because I'm in here when people are around. Sometimes I hang it on my hat. But it is a healing frequency. 432, I found out afterwards. Somebody educated me on why it had such a profound impact on my spirit and flesh, my cells. Of course, I've done a lot of research into the science of the space that I now live in. I've bombed myself into, like your divination said. And what that means. It's really the epiphany with the apocalyptic underpinning. Because in conjunction with all of these things, I was going off into the spirit, doing all kinds of ceremony. Just right before the collapse, I did all kinds of ceremony. I've been doing walls of Jericho like I used to do around the rabbit hole, which that's all part of the story. I did that and then contacted Dr. Phil and did all those things. And you know, you would think that nothing come of it, but I can see a lot that come of it. But all the stars and pedophiles, like I was talking to Dr. Phil about my own community over here, which really, the way the justice system is, there wasn't a whole lot to be done with any of it. It is the way the world is set up and the cycle that continues. And so the next thing you know, they're all falling down in Hollywood, which I don't think is a coincidence. I can see the direct consequence of my effort. And I didn't need to be on the Dr. Phil show. Praise God that, somebody's taking them down somewhere. That just means the people that have not been held accountable for their actions have to watch that television every day, every week, every month, and see another one fall. So that's, to me, a direct result of the work of my own hands. And I claim that. And then when I realized and came closer to the epiphany that I needed to have, and its apocalyptic underpinning, and quite realized everything at that point. I did a bunch of those walls of Jericho ceremony around the Bank of America, on Patton Avenue, the pharmacy, the whole doctor complex, the police department, the courthouse, but that was all after the rape trial, because I did get raped and beat up by the homeless man. Those are a couple things that have happened. I'm still alive. But anyway, the rape trial ended, and just the trauma and everything. I went deeply into ceremony and did all these ceremonies, and then ended up at my mother's, which that stalemate is now broken because I was going to help Brian up there and ended up at her house and locked down with a pandemic, which I had several months to see, like contacting Dr. Phil in the woods with the Vision Quest and the Bible. I finally could see this bigger picture beyond my own desperation into the impact of speaking out to these people the way that I did, unlike anybody else probably. Well, you know, sitting in the woods telling Dr. Phil that I want to heal the brokenhearted and set the captives free. Bless my heart, God. What was he going to do with that? So anyway, I can see the power of doing the right thing for the right reason, with the right intention, and a deep grief with lots of emotion or energy in motion, and how powerful that can change things. So drawing the dot to dot like I used to with a kid and all the numbers to make a picture, I can look at my life from where I am and work that I've done and the faith that I've held and the courage, and I can draw the dot to dot and see the bigger picture, like looking at the stars and seeing things fulfilled there and how they directly are connected to my own life, all part of the epiphany with the apocalyptic underpinning. Because in the midst of my deep grief and rage and everything that was a big tornado after the rape trial, doing the 12 days of Christmas, rewriting the whole poem and giving Paul a gift a day for 12 days before Christmas because I hadn't seen him. It was the second Christmas. All just these amazing, beautiful works of art that I created for him every day in the spur of the moment, in the spirit. And in the end of that, making a lot of declarations and writing and sending it out to a lot of people, asking them to stand with me. None of it may have made any sense to them, but in the end, all of the dates line up for the virus and when it was unleashed with everything that I was doing so that we have a direct connection in the dot to dot of my life and the coronavirus and the grief and the things that are being brought to light with the racism, injustice. It's all very unbelievable. But I can't deny it. You cannot take a ceremony and a ritual that God said to do when you want to see the walls of things fall down and do them with the utmost intention for good of everybody, and not believe in the end when you see it happening that your prayer wasn't answered. The desire of your heart was in alignment with the bigger picture. So that is all very humbling and makes it much harder for me to do any kind of videos whatsoever, because it's all so unbelievable. So I just share with people, and there have been a few people that I've talked to and told these things because I can prove them. I mean, it's my life, and it's everybody's life. This is the bigger reality of the truth that can set us free. It's what's in the heart that causes the world to burn. Souls are on fire. And now they're setting buildings on fire. And they're dying. Many of them are losing their lives. Like you said, Mama Donna. And I tell people I just try to bring a little piece of heaven. That's what I try to do. Mostly because it's in my heart. That's all there is anymore. It's a little piece of heaven that I can bring. It's all that's ever been in my heart. So, peace. Love, peace first.